Good evening. Turn that down a smidge. I hope everybody has had a decent weekend. I have been doing my best not to kill plants. I'm doing okay, I think. I think. So anyway, I've been battling, trying to get everything right within the grow tent. A lot of that, I think, had to do with my improper irrigation system. So I've got that squared away now, and seems to be doing well. So other than that, as far as updates, don't really know of any. Really not much further with anything other than, like I said, with the tent. Other than that, it is what it is. Spent a little time in flight sim, not a lot, but not as much as I should, and not as much as I really want. But it's almost like I feel guilty when I fire it up. I don't know why. 'Cause it's like I feel like I could be doing something else, and then that's not the only aspect of it. The only major complaint I have with Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 is that there is no way for individuals to communicate amongst one another within the flight sim. So in other words, if you find somebody, because you fly around with other people, you flying around with somebody, for a while and enjoy your flight together, you have no way to connect, which I think is the most strange thing on the planet. So in 2 days it releases on Xbox and the Series S and X or whatever, the new ones. 2 days it releases on that, and my hope is that somehow in the very near future, Microsoft will incorporate some type of a messaging system so that we can organize within the sim. The old one had it. So anyway, that's probably the biggest reason why I don't spend more time in it, because I'm not Mr. Social Butterfly, and I'm not a real big fan of groups, clubs, stuff like that. I just been there, done that too many times. Really not my thing. But I do enjoy flying with a group of other people. As long as keep all the other out. I just want to fly, And anyway, that's hard to find. So anyway, didn't spend a lot of time, but I did get some time in the air, in some aircraft that I hadn't flown before in this particular simulator, I should say. And F-15 was one of them. I had a hell of a time getting that thing landed. Smacked it into the ground probably about 5 or 6 times before I learned to settle it into the landing. I'm not real sure how accurate the flight model is of that one. Seems a little bouncy, a little buoyant, the way it flies. It's not that I've flown an F-15 in real life, but I've got plenty of time in a simulator in an F-15, and that one's not right. But and it's not like it's a high-dollar pay-wear aircraft or anything like that, so it is what it is. There's a DC-6, and probably boring people. I'm going to get to the subject here in just a moment. There's a DC-6 by a company called PMDG, and oh my goodness, that thing is superb. It is just a beauty. But I like fighter jets. That's what I really like. I like fighter jets and bush planes, and I thoroughly enjoy flying the DC-6, but it's a pig, and I enjoy flying pigs, but not all the time. I like fighter jets and bush planes because I love mountains and canyons and doing stupid stuff in airplanes. Anyway, that's not why we're here. So this probably isn't quite gonna be the video a lot of people might think it is gonna be. It's partially gonna be that, but there's a lot that goes on in the prepping realm that actually doesn't get on YouTube. Never seen on YouTube. And I think a lot of people are going to expect me to just, talk about the YouTube prepper communities. And while I am, it's not even nearly limited to that. Not even the tiniest bit remotely limited. In fact, the majority of it isn't anywhere near YouTube. Prepper communities. I decided that I wanted to have a little discussion on this because I saw some other channels here of recently discuss it. And one of them, and let me make something clear. If I call something out in a video, on a channel or something like that, it doesn't mean I don't like that individual. It doesn't mean I don't like any of their content. What it means is they provided some misinformation and we need to get it straightened out. If I provide misinformation, it needs to get straightened out. It's the way it is. So, I'd seen several channels, and one of the channels that I saw a video here recently that talked about prepper communities was Asymmetrical Preparedness. And he puts out a lot of good content. And so I was watching that, and it got me to thinking, and it's like, I really need to chime in on this. Because I think there's a lot of things that folks don't understand should be red flags. Okay? And they wouldn't understand why they should be red flags, and that's understandable. Let me start off by saying that I, myself, am in a very, very, very unique situation when it comes to the individuals I'm involved with. It's a needle in a haystack situation that I'm sure has happened elsewhere, but probably not the common, okay? Luck would be a fair word. Partially. I mean, you have to understand, I'm not one of those people that toot my horn. Part of it had to do with me and my abilities, and the other part of it had to do with luck, plain luck. I don't share a lot about my group because that would be stupid. That would be foolish. It's not one of the things I mentioned in the and this is, by the way, going to be a bounce around kind of discussion here. One of the things I even put it in the description of the video for tonight, kind of give somebody, give folks, give all of you kind of an idea of the direction that we were going to go, what I was going to discuss. Motivation's number one, really. It truly is. And I want to put a few nuggets in your ears when it comes to motivation, and prepping and prepper groups and stuff like that. Because I don't think a lot of people play it out the long game, right? And that, I think, is a very, very unfortunately fatal mistake for many. Gosh, where do I want to start? First off, let's stay away from, to start off, we'll stay away from anything that might even remotely be YouTube prepper community related. Once in a while, you might run into, and at various places, I don't know where all they advertise. I've seen advertisements for it, and I've seen articles on it. I've seen stories done on it. You'll have prepper community open up, and one of those deals to where you can buy your spot. And you've got anything from the wide gambit when you do this. It can be anything from, okay, you've got a place to lay your head, and you have to furnish 100% other than the housing, Or other ones are set up a little bit more where, of course, much more pricey, but you buy your way in and boom, you're set there. You got X amount of years of freeze-dried food for X amount of people, yada, yada, yada. And it's the full gambit. And you can actually go out there and find these communities, okay? But they're not a good plan. They're not a good plan. One of the things that I had put in the description here, I'd more or less asked a question, okay? And I guess we are going to start touching upon a little bit some of the YouTube communities as well, but the question that I had asked is if survival is their only mission, right? Motivation, if motivation is their survival, or survival is their motivation, I'll get it right. What happens when people start running out of supplies? I don't want to know what happens on paper, and I'm going to get to that. I want to know what really happens. What really happens. Because what's on that paper yeah. When it comes to paper, prepping communities, you have a prepping community that wants you to sign a paper contract, turn around and don't walk, but run. Why? Well, it's like this. Let me compare it to a product that's available for preppers out there. Trying to do so without mentioning the name because I don't need a lawsuit. There's a device out there that the claim is you can buy it and you can put it on your vehicle, and in the event of a electromagnetic pulse, your vehicle will be okay. That's the claim. My first question is if we have an EMP and it doesn't work, what can I do? So, if you have individuals with a prepper community wanting you to sign contracts, you realize that's one-sided, right? Because before SHTF, they've got the legal power to enforce that contract. What do you think it's going to take to enforce that contract after SHTF? One-sided contract. Plain and simple. Never, ever involve yourself in one-sided contracts. That's one of the big issues with these communities, as I aforementioned, where you come across them, however that may be. You buy your way in. You don't, let's just skip the whole, needing to be able to train together and stuff. Let's just even bypass all that. You don't know what Jim and Sally's got. You don't know what Tom and Sue's got. You don't know what any of these other people have that bought in to this deal. Okay, and you may have showed up to your crib with 20 years of food, and they may only have 2. So what happens when they run out of their 2 years of food? Follow me? Again, that situation, that scenario can be avoided by avoiding the motivation. Now, Let's circle back, Jen Psaki, to what the motivation was. The motivation, and this I know sounds mind-blowing, but the motivation was survival. I know, right? Makes no sense. Why would you not want to go with a prepper group where their motivation is survival? Because survival's not enough. You gotta have survival and reconstruction. Both. And I probably didn't use the best word there, but nonetheless, it's a fact. If you don't start working to replenish the supplies that you are using, it is only a matter of time before you run out of supplies. Common sense. Common sense. But there is a difference in preparing yourself to rebuild or just preparing yourself to survive. Much different. Much different. Right? What do you need to survive? Right? Your shelter, your food, your water, your air. You know the drill. That's what you need to live. That's what you need to survive. But what you need to rebuild are tools, intellect, skills, much more than what's needed for just, and I'm going to say survival, even though that there's a lifespan to survival. You're eventually going to run out of stuff, or you're going to die from old age because you had way more stuff than you needed in your lifespan. But nonetheless, you're going to likely run out of supplies. And if you don't, who is? Not a good situation. So what you're wanting to look for is a group of individuals, this is going to be rare, a group of individuals with the designated focus of rebuilding. And I know chances of finding that going to be that needle in a haystack. But what's stopping you from starting it? That has to be the goal. That has to be the main motivator. There's a lot of individuals out there, involved in prepper communities and stuff, and it may appear that that's their end goal. And no, they're set up for survival. Yeah, they have the ability to rebuild and to start producing and all of that stuff. For them. For them. That's not going to bode well for anybody. It's not. There's a lot of people that play prepper and they won't pick up a book. A lot of them say they do. I don't get it. I'm not finding any books that anybody else can't find. I'm not reading anything. And I say books, in all fairness, a lot of times it's not books. It's information on the internet, okay? A lot of times it's in a book form on the internet or whatever. I don't have a lot of actual physical books. I do a lot of research. I do a lot of reading. And when it comes to this type of stuff, I have a double interest. I'm vested twice in it. Not only because I am involved in prepping, but also I have a deep passion for psychology. And I don't think that a lot of people really understand the psychology behind SHTF. And that's another point that I wanted to touch on. There's a lot of individuals, and I'm sorry I'm scattered. I'm always scattered, so my apologies for that. There are a lot of individuals that are very concerned right now because they're not part of a group. Don't be. Don't be. Have friends. Have contacts. Know people. Okay? You have friends, have contacts, know people. If you can't cross that finish line of having a prepper group before SHTF, you might be better off than many of those that do. How's that? Most people don't really know how they're going to react in a situation in that high stress of a situation. No idea. Because they've never been, thankfully, put in it. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's a good thing. My wish is that nobody would ever have to be put in it. But the truth of the matter is, there's a lot of people that you may even think are on top of their game. They may think they're on top of their game, but it'll break them. And a lot of times when it happens, and this is just a psychological fact, it blindsides them because it's the people that really don't realize that they've got that fracture starting. They don't realize it, and it hits them pretty hard. Okay? People that deal with depression, people that deal with anxiety and stuff like that are a little more apt to adapt, catch themselves, know what's going on and stuff like that because it's another day. People that don't normally deal with that stuff crash hard. Psychological fact. You're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see a lot of that. A lot of the groups, the groups that are built now, are going to run into a lot of issues with that. A lot. And I hope they've got things in place to deal with it, proper things in place to deal with it. You know, that's one of the important things too when building a group. There's some areas that you want to kind of make sure you don't neglect. Psychology is one of them. You know, a lot of people think of gunshot wounds and gashes and all that. It's not the end of medical. In fact, you know, a lot of that stuff can be a little easier to fix than the head stuff. So probably a good idea to have somebody on your team that knows the head stuff. Just saying. I think, and this is my firm belief, and this isn't just based on my thoughts, it's also based on tons and tons and tons of research. I think that some of the strongest communities are going to be individuals that band together after the event. I'd be willing to bet on it. I'd be willing to bet on it. It's those hard times, and I'm speaking towards individuals that aren't involved in groups or anything like that, that just gets thrown into a major SHTF and they run across, somebody else that's in the same shoes that they are. They band together with a few more people and they make it to it and they push through it and they get to the brunt of it. I guarantee you that they're going to be a little more tight-knit of a bunch than the group that was together before SHTF hit. It's a factor people need to consider. I'm not saying to wait. I'm not. What I'm trying to do is ease the minds of those that might feel a little rushed right now, because I think there's a lot of individuals that feel that. Don't worry about it. Make friends, right? Try to get a good idea of who it is you can trust. Watch how they do under stress, right? You want to stay away from drama queens. You want to stay, you know. You got to remember that if you let evil in your camp, all it takes is just a little bit of evil. And you're likely going to have it in your camp, but if you don't nip it in the bud immediately, it's going to fester, it's going to grow. And it's going to become something you don't want. One good indicator of an individual that would fester that stuff is a drama queen. That's why I called that out specifically. The other thing that I would be leery of with prepper groups, prepper communities and stuff like that, if you're looking to get into one, if they're cozy with the government, and when I say cozy with the government, I mean, all lockstep, probably not a good idea. There's a reason why. Do you realize how many federal agents are at the Bundy Ranch or Malheur Wildlife Refuge? Do you think it's a good idea to be cozy with the federal government or any government because it stacks? I don't want people to make this mistake. And I'm telling you, there's some honeypots out there. I just mentioned about what happened with Bundy's. I'm well known for being able to point out the feds that were at the Bundys. Go back many videos, and you'll see that. Good at it. Obvious to me. If you don't think the prepping community's got the same thing going on in it, I've got a couple of bridges for sale. I mean, hell, why not? Infiltrated is more like it. Infiltrated. Think that's a good idea? I don't. You see, we've got this thing in this country to where it's acceptable in society to excuse one group for doing, well, that's true too. Excuse one group from doing something, and then yeah. But what I'm talking about is, okay, the news. All right, you turn on the news, and they say something that makes you feel good, and you want to happen, and all right, and the news is right. I'm sure this happens a lot with us. I guarantee it does. It's probably the biggest thing that happens with us. And then turn around and you hear a news story you don't like, and all of a sudden, oh, fake news. That's a problem. Same is true when it comes to the government. When they're working on your behalf, you rah, 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 and then turn around and cry like a little baby when it doesn't. Can't do that. And you don't have to pick one or the other. That's the amazing thing. This isn't a light switch. This isn't a one or. Right? There's a middle. Very defined middle. Like them not being cocksuckers, and sorry for the language, and there's a middle. There's a middle. Sorry for the language, but it seemed fitting to me. I'm worried for folks. I don't gotta worry. My poop's in a group, without a doubt. But you see, going back to that motivation, I ain't doing any of this for me. Number one, I'm doing it for him. That's number one. And a real doing it for him, not some read some pretty words of scripture and then slap them. No. That's why I don't. That's why I don't read scripture, and that's why I don't. If he tells me to, I will. I am concerned, thoroughly concerned for individuals out there right now, because there's a lot of people that are very concerned with what's going on in the world, rightfully so, and they're scrambling, trying to get in a group, and it, you know, like I say, there was a video that kind of made me think about having this discussion, and I almost got that impression from him, like almost like. No, he didn't give me the impression like he was desperate for a group or anything, but not whatsoever. And he's one situation. I was thinking about others, not just him. I was thinking about others in his situation and how, you know, they're going to be so quick to want to grasp onto anything that they see as some form of security. And unfortunately, I think in many cases, what people think is going to be their saving grace from SHTF is only going to be the beginning of their SHTF. Remember what I said earlier on about the contract thing? It's one-sided. Because sure, they can use it now in a court of law, but where are you going to use it? It's one-sided. You should even be looking at them suspiciously at that point. I'm just saying. There's not much I share about it. We don't have contracts. I'll share that with you. We ain't got contracts. We ain't got contracts. Guess what? No background checks. We didn't go suckle up. Not a one. Now, granted, the fields that the individuals are involved in, probably not going to be a bunch of riffraff, but it don't mean nothing. But that's the other thing. And you're going to have a lot of individuals that band together because they're rejected from other individuals. That goes down a whole nother road, which we're not going to discuss tonight. But my advice, if you're looking for a group, first off, like with any of this, don't be panicked with anything. You want a clear head. You want to think logically when you make decisions. Do not think emotionally when you make decisions. Try not to ever. That's best advice I can give somebody, is try never to make decisions emotionally. In fact, try to train your mind not to respond emotionally to things. And it's amazing the clarity that you achieve when you do not do that. I mean, and you actually see people being played like toys, back and forth. Not just from politicians, but even in society itself, or in media, or you just constant see people getting played back and forth, and you're just like, you're both idiots. But it's hard to see it, because the way that they get you in that one or the other side mentality is with your emotions. That's how they get you. You pull that aspect out of it, and you see it for what it is. You'll be like, why in the hell was I voting? No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, that is kind of one of the aspects. It's like, wait a minute here. You know, once you see it, you can't unsee it. The biggest thing is look for that motivation. And you want to look, if you get a chance to actually see whatever, the property, meet individuals, talk to the group, stuff like that, look around. See if it looks to you like they want to build, or if they just want to stay their tight little community and fight off the world. Oh, nothing cracks me up more than that. Sorry if that offends people, but read a book. If you're offended by that, I would highly recommend you pick up a couple books and see how that worked out for other individuals that had the great idea of having a tight little group that was just going to survive the end of everything together. Not the end of everything, but like war or whatever, because, of course, we haven't had the end of anything in our lifetime yet. But there have been many events of things like war and economic issues and all kinds of instances to where you can actually go and see firsthand what people did. Imagine that. See, if folks aren't basing this on what happens, then what are they basing it on? Same thing our currency's based on. Bullshit. That's right. You have to know how people work. If you don't understand how people work, no business organizing a community. No business at all. Just my opinion, but once again, backed up by not only logic, but actual data. Look to see if they want to expand, if they want to build out, if they want to build a larger community, if they eventually want to have a town, eventually a bigger town. That's what you want. You want to find a group that their sole purpose is to rebuild. Telling you. Go look and see in countless instances that you can read, been well documented. Go look and see who are the ones that came through. You might have an idea of where I'm coming from. If not, I probably sound pretty batshit crazy. That's cool. Telling you. It's trying to have your tight knit group of buddies and surviving the end, not going to end well. Just not. Because it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. However, if you keep building and get bigger and bigger and bigger, guess what else you get? Stronger and stronger and stronger. Yeah, more mouths to feed, more of this, more of that, more of everything. But you damn well better have more workers too. You know, you have to build and to build out and to build on that scale. Now we're needing to talk about a few other things. You might want to ask a couple of questions like, what do you plan on doing to feed a larger amount of people? How are you going to work the fields? It's a fair question. Why wouldn't it be a fair question? How much area, and I honestly have no clue, how much area of a how many square feet or whatever of a wheat field would it take to make a single loaf of bread? I have no idea. No clue. But bread was a staple. Bread was a staple. We better be able to sow some wheat. How are you going to do it? If you can't go get diesel or gasoline, what are you going to do? After you run out of your 500 gallons, what are you going to do? They can't answer these questions. What the hell are they doing? They're not focused on rebuilding. They may not even be trying to answer these questions. By the way, the answer to that question is wood gasification. Wood gasification is the answer to that question. And lo and behold, I can say this about our group, we're set up for it. Lickety-split. Lickety-split. I mean, don't even have to do nothing other than put wood in the hopper and light it. That's how set. These are things that folks need to really look for and consider, because a lot of these communities out there aren't really, they're not really what they appear. A lot of it's self-serving. A lot of it. Some of it's honeypots. And there's a fair amount of groups, communities and stuff out there with good intentions, with truly, truly good intentions, poorly implemented. Any one of the bad scenarios is bad news for you. That's why I'm talking about this. This stuff sounds a little bizarre, probably to many, but it's not. You've got to look at that beyond. What happens in the beyond? So this can't just be survival. This can't be just survival in my group of buddies, and once in a while, if we snag somebody else that comes walking by, fine. No. It won't work that way. You have to go out and actively seek to grow, to build, and to rebuild. Because if you don't, you're just an hourglass. And those grains of sand will eventually run out. To me, the whole purpose of survival is to actually survive. And that's easy to do short term, and depending on the situation, of course. Long term, generations, we better be a little more on our game than what I'm seeing. tomorrow night, I'm going to be discussing a topic that will make that statement make a hell of a lot more sense. I'm telling you right now. SHTF, the one that I'm seeing, you know how the good book talks about how every knee will bow? Guaranteed. This stuff that we have going on, these earthly things that we have going on, like the precipice of war, or at least what seems like the precipice of war, and things like with what's possibly looming lockdowns coming back to the United States, and who knows, possibly a mandated vaccine. We don't know. I'm looking out beyond that. I mean, those are SHTFs. Make no mistake. Those are SHTFs. I think we've been going through SHTFs, but fortunately, I think mostly they're kind of soft. Not for everybody. Some people hit hard with all this stuff going on over the last couple of years. Some people's hit real hard. You know, but I think for a lot of people, it's been a lot of not so hard bumps, and we're getting the hell knocked out of us, but we're still in the count, at least for now. I do see that we probably have a major conflict, war, coming right on the horizon. I do see a much more highly tyrannical government. I see that right on the horizon. Those are very, very bad things indeed. But only thing I can tell the government on their end of it is good luck. I just don't think it ends well. I'm talking about things like mandated forced vaccination, stuff like that. I don't think would go over very well. I think the American people have, and this is probably going to offend people too, but have laid down for most of this entire time. They haven't really stood up. Look overseas right now. What's going on in what, 200 and some odd countries or something? Where the hell are we? Right? But we will stand. See, there's one thing, either you're going to have something that's brittle or malleable, right? Either it's going to be bendy, either it's going to be malleable, or it's going to be brittle and just snap, right? Remember when I was talking about psychology? The difference in people that have dealt with a lot of depression, anxiety, and stuff they know how to deal with it. It's like another day for them. To where the people that don't normally have to deal with things like that fracture starts, they're not aware of it, and all of a sudden that crack happens, and they're blindsided, they don't know how to deal with it, they've never been there, and it's the same thing. Same thing. I think we got more on our plate than people remotely realize. And the biggie, the doozy, is something that we have no control over, can't do a damn thing about, except try to survive it. If I'm correct on this, if you do manage to survive it, going forward, it's going to be a doozy. We're going to talk more about that tomorrow night, because it's science. Not Fauci science. That's not even science. That's politics and money. I'm talking science, the science that isn't funded by a particular group to go a certain way, the real science. And the real science is out there. We know what's coming. We know what's happening. You just got to know where to look. And if you're not preparing for that, what are you preparing for? Because just being able to maybe evade forced vaccinations or, not get blown up in war, that's easy in comparison. Got a long road ahead, folks, and we're not even really at the beginning of it yet. I think we're starting to, put our toes in the water. But that's, I think, the extent of it. We've got a long way to go. Long way to go. I don't say that to discourage you, but I've always promised I'm not going to cherry coat anything. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to tickle your ear. I'm not. Got a hell of a long way to go, and it's not to discourage you. It's to encourage you. It's to motivate you. It can be done. That's the good news. And it will be done, I'm sure. It will be done. Why? Because it's His will. I'm not saying it's His will for me to achieve it. I can't say that. Might be, might not be. It might be your will to achieve it. Or His will for you, I mean. My apologies. It is what it is. But we've reached the scruffing stage. Anyway, let me have a sip of tea. We'll jump into some headlines. I've actually talked for an hour on this. If anybody has any questions on the subject, if there are questions, that can be answered publicly, throw them in the chat. Otherwise, contact me outside of YouTube. More than happy to answer. The only thing I can say is, no, my group does not accept members. We haven't accepted members in a long time, and it ain't going to start. Let me explain that. Before I go to headlines, let me at least explain that. I sat here and I'm talking about how joining groups, not wanting to grow, and stuff like that. I also made a comment a bit ago about our group has their poop in a group, right? We do. And we're not going to let that get screwed up. There's a much bigger goal there. Now, that being said, the intent is to rebuild. One of the things that you have to do in order to achieve that is you have to be able to keep your equipment, for instance, stuff like that. So you're going to have no matter what, you're going to have a security detail. And you're going to have to be able to secure those items that are vital to the survival of and the rebuilding of your area. Of course, you're going to have a group within a group, right? Like how we have a government within a country. It's the same thing on a much smaller scale. That's what it is. I wanted to clarify that because it's okay to have, you need a group. You need that tight core. You have to have that tight core. You really do. But you have to have the intent on rebuilding community. Not just picking up a stray here or there. No. Rebuilding community. Finding people. And rebuilding. Otherwise, it's grains of sand drawn out. Anyway, let me oops. Clicking wrong buttons and stuff's not wanting to drag. There we go. I may have a few vapes. I've been talking for like an hour. A lot of crazy news. Been keeping an eye on it all weekend. Trying to think, and I'm sure, like always, there's stuff that's there to stand out, but at the same time, I draw a blank every time I sit there and try to think of one. A lot of, like I say, a lot of craziness. I think the one of the highlights, I think, of the news over the weekend is all the protests going on. That is pretty amazing. How many people in how many countries are standing up, and again, like I had said earlier, there's more to things in life than just one or the other, right? I think, unfortunately, we get put in a football mindset or a baseball mindset or whatever mindset where you've got two teams that go up against one another, and one's got to be a winner and one's got to be a loser, all right? Life does not work like football. There's a lot of gray area that can be explored. It doesn't even have to be a winner and a loser. That's the amazing thing. There does not even have to be a winner and a loser. There doesn't. I don't know. We got some fun times coming, I think. Let's see. Yeah, and this stuff was the other stuff I was watching very closely. I'll just kind of catch it as I go through the headlines. Let me go ahead and get started on that. So there's quite a few. Yeah, not super bad. It has decelerated, I will say that. The news cycle has seemed to have decelerated some, which is a good thing. And I don't believe it feels like in a calm before the storm kind of manner. I don't get that right now anyway. Okay, starting with Friday. CDC, can't even get the first acronym out right. CDC pitches COVID boosters for immunocompromised, and I screwed that up, after Israel suit as Pfizer jab loses efficacy against Delta infections. Now, one thing I will point out is it's interesting when you read headlines about like the efficacy and stuff like that against, like, say, the Delta variant, for instance. It's amazing how differently how differently the efficacy is from one, say, website to another website, or whatever the case may be, wherever you pull in the info. But some of them say that, oh yeah, it's gonna work on all of them, not a problem. And others are like, yeah, it's pretty useless. And it's like, this is the biggest issue, I think, with this whole situation. How do you know who to trust on any of it? On any of it. From the start to the stop. How do you know who to trust on any of it? Because they're all lying. All of them. And it's to the point, and it's gone on so long now, that even if they did finally come out and tell us the truth, I think it's too late. And that puts the world in a bad situation, well, our nation especially, in a bad situation. It really, truly does. On multiple levels. Man, this was so mishandled from the beginning to the end, and it was mishandled. It's been mishandled from the start to now. I'm not putting it off on one political party or one president or this. No, they both have fumbled this one terribly. Terribly. It's a fact. Pentagon admits it trained 7 of Haiti president's murderers but denies encouraging assassination. Well then. Australia's New South Wales declares national emergency as state enters stricter lockdown following 136 new COVID cases. And we're seeing these lockdowns happening all over the world, and I would expect that you're gonna start. I mean, we've already started seeing some things like St. Louis, Missouri, and St. Louis County, I think it is, are back under mask mandates, and I think you're gonna see a lot more of that rolling out real quick, like, and I mean real quick, like. You know, is there an increase in cases? Supposedly so. You know, I'm not going around with a clipboard and tallying up the numbers. It would appear so. But again, who do we trust? That's the thing at this point. And when it comes to trying to keep up with what's really going on with that situation, it's very frustrating. Especially for somebody that wants the truth. I don't want to feel warm and fuzzy about what I'm told. I want the truth. And it's hard to do because if anybody's given it, I don't know which one it is. Russian central bank warns domestic stock exchanges against crypto-related funds. I will say you can trust people like Chris. I'm going to mess up his last name. Peak Prosperity. I can trust him. I really do. Is it Martinson? I think it's Martinson. Chris Martinson. Let's see. Pill version of COVID-19 vaccine to start clinical trial in Israel. I know, you're shocked, right? New South Wales Premier sparks row with other Australian state leaders after requesting priority access to COVID-19 vaccines. Predatory and dangerous behavior, Australian brand fined nearly $4 million over misleading advertising of antiviral activewear. Oregon announces mandatory coronavirus vaccine for Hungary's healthcare workers and jabs for school kids. UK government won't search Hancock's private emails despite admitting ex-health secretary used personal account for official work. Sorry, I almost said office work. Zakowski Cargo Airport nails $150 million worth in deals at Makes 2021. That's like Russia's air show thing. Hungary's PM condemns EU ideological war after bloc seeks 2-month delay in country's recovery plan talks. West working to create belt of instability around Russia by turning brother against brother, says Moscow's top diplomat Lavrov. I see that happening even within our own country with us. And I think largely it's the same well, the individuals that are claimed here, I think, is doing it to us. And yeah, I think they've been destabilizing the world for a really long time. I mean, that's essentially what we've been doing. That's what we do. U.S. slanders effort to bring criminals to justice, Beijing says, as Chinese prosecutor charged over intimidating citizens to return. India rejects bids by Amazon and Flipkart to quash antitrust probe. I wonder how that is going to go. I'm really interested on how that's going to go with big tech and stuff like that, and these other countries that aren't interested in being bought out. I am really curious how that's going to turn out. Canadians in favor of renaming Toronto Street bearing name of Scottish counter-abolitionist until they hear the cost. Like everybody's for climate change until they got to give up their iPhone, right? People jabbed with placebos during vaccine trials will have the same privileges as those who are fully vaxxed, the UK minister says. Now you caught that, right? And just in case, people jabbed with placebos, fake shots, during the vaccine trials will have the same privileges as those who had the real ones. Wait a minute. Wouldn't that be endangering other individuals? I don't know where this is going to go, folks. I don't know where this is going to lead. You know, I was talking about the different SHTFs that we're looking at here. And, you know, this is one of the more immediate ones that I think we're looking at. And I don't know where this is going to go because from all indication, the people aren't having it. And at the same time, from all indication, they're not having it that the people aren't having it. So it's going to come to a head. I'm just curious how that's going to look. You know, abroad, here, the world, I do think that there's something far bigger behind all this. And I do believe that if this wasn't in their plan, it's going to be incorporated and used because, you know, never let a good crisis go to waste. So I'm not talking about the COVID thing. I'm talking about people uprising and protesting against lockdowns, against mandates and stuff like that. You better believe they're going to use that to their advantage. You know, I know there's some talk about, you know, the possibility of some troops or something on the Canadian border of the U.S., I don't know. I haven't looked into that. I haven't dug into it. What I will tell you is that there's been foreign troops in this nation for decades. It's a normal thing. So they're already here. You know, maybe not in a huge, massive army, but there again, how do you know? You know? I mean, if you've got people scattered all throughout the country, and then all of a sudden on X day you say assemble, you've got yourself an army. Think about it. I don't know how this is going to play out, folks. This is one of the things that tires me. Trying to figure out what their moves are going to be. I'm pretty good at doing that stuff. This one's giving me a challenge. This one's giving me a challenge because it depends on so many factors that we don't know yet. And, you know, there's a couple of big factors I think that are coming up that is really going to say a lot, but I don't think it's going to work. I don't think they intend for it to work in our way, in our best interest, right? I do think that there will be an uprising. I think it's going to have to come to that. And I don't want it. I don't want any of this. You know what I want? I want our Constitution reinstated. I want our Bible respected. And I want us to be able to live as individuals as our founding fathers had intended and as the Father intended. Free individuals. that don't have to come under the scrutiny of government or other individuals for everything they do. That's freedom. Not this crap that people celebrate on the 4th of July. That's not freedom. Freedom while you follow a million rules? No, that's symbolism. Big difference. And not well related. Freedom. Where you're not calling the cops to tell on your neighbor, and they're not calling the cops to tell on you. Right. And if it did get to that extent, it would only be their interest to keep the peace. Other than that, nobody's getting tickets, nobody's paying fines, getting extorted, getting kidnapped, nothing. As long as nobody hits each other in the head with a rock or something. Peace officers, like the founding fathers intended. Not a standing army like we have. I'm sorry, I got off the headlines on a rant. Austria's Kurz vows no stop to deportations of Afghan asylum seekers after policewoman assaulted. It's totally racist. Singalese, and I'm probably saying that wrong, musician claims he was removed from the Olympics opening ceremony because he is black. Don't know. I've saw a lot of stuff coming out about the Olympics and trying to tag this, that, and the other thing as being racist aspects to the Olympics. I think we're looking for things, is what we're doing. I think we're at the point to where we're just absolutely looking for everything. It was very disheartening to see that even the Olympics could get tainted by all this bull crap. That's disheartening. I'm not into that kind of stuff. It's not me. I don't care. Whatever. I said the other night, I do enjoy watching the volleyball, the beach volleyball in particular. I love that. That's a lot of talent, of course. The energy, I guess, is the word that I'm looking for, and I love it. I love the energy. I love the competitiveness. It's pretty incredible, right? And I don't get that out of a lot of sports. For some reason, the volleyball does that to me. Anyway, I enjoyed playing it. I don't know, maybe that had something to do with it. Yes, I did. In PE, I enjoyed the hell out of volleyball. It was probably... Actually, I think it was probably about the game I enjoyed playing most in PE. Yeah, I know, odd, right? Volleyball. I don't know why. It's just a cool game. Anyway, I can't say it doesn't have anything to do with racism, but man, do you know how many different racism stories that came out about the Olympics at this point? I mean, things about Simone Biles and stuff like that, how she's limited on what she can do, and it's bogus, it's bunk, it's lies. Let's see. Cancel the Olympics. Protesters take to Tokyo streets as Olympic opening ceremony gets underway. Again, this is Friday's news. Instagram restores post issuing death threats against Iran's Ayatollah Khomeini, claiming these are in the public interest. Now, I shared this out on Facebook, and I had said something to the effect of, you don't want this. You do not want selective enforcement, folks. Because it's only a matter of time before it's selected against you. You do not want selective enforcement. This isn't cool. If Instagram isn't, and I'm just saying this, if Instagram isn't going to let us communicate with free speech, discuss important topics without being censored, without being punished, right, or completely disappeared, This is ridiculous. This pick and choose thing. It's ridiculous. Lockdown imposed on millions of children as Philippines battles soaring COVID cases. Not a blame game. WHO urges collaboration after Beijing rejects proposed second probe into COVID-19 origins. Baseless, Kabul refutes Taliban's claim that militant group controls 90% of Afghan border. A legendary Trans-Siberian Railway halted in both directions after heavy flooding causes a bridge to collapse in Russia's Far East. Speaking of floods, I was watching a little bit of video from London, and it was like the streets were rivers. I mean, it's insane what's going on with the weather. And didn't somebody that does a YouTube news show, didn't they say something about keeping an eye on the weather and how it was going to be worse this year and how it was going to continue to get worse? That there was a reason why? We're going to talk about that tomorrow. That reason. But it's not going to get any better. And this isn't cow farts, it's not CO2, it's not some wild theory from Al Gore. It's a cycle. We didn't cause it, we can't stop it. All we can do is prepare for it. And no matter how much you prepare, I'm telling you, it's not a guarantee. But we're going to see more and more and more of this. And it is just like, wow, watching, and it just, I'm speaking about London, and here's Russia, and I mean, it is all over, here in the United States, all over the world. It's insane. And I know there's always crazy weather events, it's just, that's weather. This is on a different level. This is on a much different scale. Let's see, at least 17 Brits drowned trying to cool off in 30 degrees Celsius heat wave as agencies warn swimmers to stay out of the water. I have noticed a massive increase in the amount of water deaths that are happening. Massive. I'm assuming that this is because people were cooped up. I'm assuming. And so they're getting out, and they're just enjoying time out and stuff like that, and unfortunate things happen. I don't know anything on numbers, to be honest, as far as like if more people are out right now, say since 2018. I couldn't tell you anything as far as comparison on the numbers because I have no clue, but I do know that I have seen tons and tons and tons of incidents, unfortunately, and it's got me curious as to what's going on. A lot of them. Let's see. Up to 75% of new COVID cases in Singapore are in vaccinated people, but getting jab lowers chance of serious illness, figures show. Now, remember what I was saying a while ago in the headlines about depending on what website and where and what, here in the U.S., there are a lot of media outlets that are trying to tell you that the people that are getting ill now, the people that are getting COVID now are the unvaccinated. That is not true. That is not true. The only place you're hearing that is in U.S. media. That's it. If you look at the media in most other places, they will tell you that these are a large majority of these COVID cases are what they call breakthrough cases, people that have already had the vaccine and are still getting it. Breakthrough cases. The White House won't even answer how many of the Democrats that got sick were breakthrough cases. I guess in the White House period. Sorry. I guess in the White House, how many are breakthrough cases? They won't even tell you. This is all feeling very depressing. Specter of anti-Olympics protests looms large over Tokyo opening ceremony. Again, Friday's news. Great Barrier Reef avoids UNESCO endangered list after lobbying efforts from Australia and 11 other countries. Vaccinated employees of California City required to wear stickers if they want to work without masks. Monsoon rains trigger floods and landslides in India, leaving at least 67 dead. Sign of increasing cooperation, ? Since Biden's inauguration. I hate when I do that, sorry. I try to pre-read the headline before I start reading it so I can exclude stuff like that. I hate adding that, I'm sorry. Let's see. Since Biden's inauguration, Russia and U.S. have held 4 discussions on cybersecurity, Moscow says. Moderna's COVID-19 jab given green light by EU drugs regulator for use in adolescents. Russian cops accuse fertility doctors of selling babies to single men, with clients reportedly paying for gender and looks. Is that not just plain messed up? Hungary demands money Norway owes after Nordic nation suspends financial aid over NGO funding row. Russia's Rostec inks over $3 billion in deals to supply 160-plus aircraft at Make's 2021 air show. And I don't know if I'm saying Make's right or not. Let the games begin. Tokyo Olympics declared open at scaled-back ceremony in front of near-empty stadium. I wouldn't want to be there. I mean, even if that was something that I was into, normally into, no, I'll pass. I hear a lot of stuff happens at the Olympics, like, the tourists and stuff like that. I hear there's a lot of robberies and muggings and all kinds of craziness that happens around wherever the Olympics is. So, no thanks. Argentina to consider buying COVID-19 vaccines from U.S. after Russia delays in delivering millions of doses of Sputnik 5, says reports. By the way, circling back to that, if you have to have somebody go with you to protect you, how in the hell is that going and doing a good thing? I couldn't understand for the life of me why people would go to a resort in a country to where they are told, you don't want to leave the resort. Right? Why? I mean, really? Because there's a little strip of beach and a nice hotel? Really? Maybe I see things a little differently. Canadian memorial to victims of communism received private donations in memory of Nazi collaborators and war criminals, says reports. Whiny liberals ruin another brand. Conservatives seized as Cleveland Indians baseball team rename themselves Guardians. Yeah, well, whatever. We need to stop making this stuff the importance of our life. And I mean the actual importance of our life. It's okay if it's entertainment, but the sad thing is a lot of folks that have a hard time keeping it as just entertainment. It all of a sudden becomes like, I don't know, way more than it should be. Hey, I'm not much into sports. I get that. Even I was kind of upset when St. Louis has been shuffled around, right? We lost the football team, St. Louis Cardinals football team. They went to Arizona. I don't know if they're still there. I have no idea. And we got the Rams, and we lost the Rams. Who really cares? I mean, in the whole scheme of things, and I'm not necessarily saying losing a team, but a name. Do you know how often Sports teams change names, some of them. Again, it's not just the left that look for reasons to cry. Could Sean Penn force vaccine mandate in Hollywood? Actor refuses to return to set until all inoculated against COVID-19. Sean Penn can do the movie his own damn self. Let's see. Real prospect. I have no idea how to pronounce that. Amag maybe. Bombing was preventable, North Irish judge says. Calls for investigations into 1998 atrocity. Slovak police unleashed tear gas as anti-COVID demonstrators push into parliament in Bratislava. And I probably said that wrong. So this is wow, Bratislava. I don't know. I guess there's a country, Slovakia. I guess this would be Slovakia. I don't know. I don't know all the countries, especially after the the breakup and stuff. I think there's no more I can't even say it now. There's a Slovakia and a Czech. It's no longer together. Czechoslovakia. I can't even say it, but you know what I'm trying to say. I do try to kind of differentiate, and the reason why is because I try to understand the different regions and their viewpoints and stuff. Peak hypocrisy. Tokyo Olympics bashed for worst part of the pandemic reminder after mega-rich celebrities sing Imagine. Whatever. People looking to be offended. India's opposition demands inquiry into alleged government treason over use of Pegasus spyware. Over 140 Palestinians injured as Israeli forces use rubber bullets and tear gas to break up West Bank protest. Now, was this No, this was just their normal. Okay. I think there's some other headlines too. ECHR rejects Russian request to impose interim measures against Kiev after Moscow complains about Crimea water and discrimination. Beijing sanctions several Americans, including former U.S. Commerce Secretary, in first use of new law against anti-China penalties. Gunshots and tear gas reported at funeral of slain Haitian President Jovenel Moïse. I probably said his name wrong. Hundreds queue to catch a glimpse of Russia's brand new Checkmate 5th generation stealth fighter at MEX 2021 air show. And I thought the name of the aircraft, okay, you have to understand this aircraft is very similar in outward appearance anyway to RF-35. And so to have an aircraft that looks very similar to the F-35 and then name it Checkmate, I gotta give credit where credit's due. that was a pretty good move. But anyway, that is from what I could see of it, which is very, very, very little. Looks to be kind of an impressive bird, to be honest. I don't know that they've got the vertical takeoff ability, though. It doesn't look like from the pictures and stuff I've seen, it doesn't appear that it's got the type of nozzle system and all that. It looks like to be a regular conventional type of aircraft. So, let's see. Mask mandate returning to St. Louis City and County on Monday. I was talking about that. That goes back into effect tomorrow. French hospital goes on indefinite strike to protest COVID-19 vaccination mandates. So this is France. So we had Slovakia. Now we've got France. If I missed one that I've already said, I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep up as we go along on them. Time to start blaming the unvaccinated. Alabama's governor splits critics as she loses it over state's low inoculation rate. You see what I'm saying? So, blaming the unvaccinated when the majority of the people that are catching the new variants are the vaccinated. Brilliant. Algerian judo athlete withdraws from Olympics to avoid possible match with Israeli. He says he won't get his hands dirty. And I thought, whoa. Yeah, this didn't end well for him, but I mean, talk about a statement. Again, Olympics really isn't the place for that stuff. That's one place I wish they could just let be, you know? I'm not into sports. I don't have an issue with it. I don't think I should be in control over what you do. So if you're into sports, you like sports, you want to play sports or just watch sports, that's on you. I'm not much into it. But I do see benefit, and I do see a lot of positive things from having something like the Olympics. I see a lot of positive. I think it's a shame that we have sick, evil, twisted individuals I mean, this is their goal. I mean, it's just disgusting. And the lack of self-discipline from the majority that feed one wolf for the other. Saddening. U.S. government buys 200 million Pfizer shots as booster closes and for kids. Closes? Where the hell? U.S. government buys 200 million Pfizer shots as booster doses and for kids. Sorry. I don't know where the hell I saw that from. Solving the wrong problem, San Francisco debuts ultra-pricey trash cans to deter homeless and vandals. Because that's going to work. Works real well. Go out and buy some expensive trash cans and that'll... What will that do? Spate of drug-resistant fungal infections found in Texas and D.C. hospitals. So... I have a feeling when it comes to medical things, they're going to keep the fear game going strong. Massive column of smoke visible for miles as huge fire rages through warehouse in northern France. Still on Friday's news, by the way. I'll try to speed up. Only in UK, shocking clips show prankster in Spider-Man costume assault female staff, shoppers in London supermarket. Sorry, I butchered the headline. Biden doubles funding for unexpected needs of Afghan refugees, as ex-interpreter abandoned by Pentagon gets beheaded by Taliban. Yeah, I mean, there were a multitude of individuals, including myself, that were like, hey, can't we... I mean, I'm not saying bring over all the immigrants. I'm saying these individuals that risk their lives to help our troops, can we give them a help? Can we give them a hand? Can we give them a spot? Seriously, can we give them a spot? They're helping our troops. And I think they should be fully vetted in the whole 9 yards. Don't just think just because they translated for our troops, for instance, that's a free shot in. But we have such little regard for human life. Hesitancy battle lost. Vast majority of unvaccinated Americans say they won't be getting COVID-19 jabs, a poll shows. And yeah, people, I think those that want it have got it. I think it's sewn up. I think it's a done deal. And I really think the continual pushing by any group of individuals or individuals, probably not a good idea. Probably not a good idea, because right now, the hackles on the back of people's neck are starting to stand up. And again, like I was talking about earlier, and our society is going to do that same thing. You may have all these protests in all these nations now and not see a whole lot going on here, but it's like that psychology thing I was talking about. That person's not used to dealing with issues cracking and it being a nasty crack. The same's going to go true with the uprise in this country. Because, yeah, we've had protests and something like that, but not on this level. This is a totally different level, different motivation, the whole 9 yards. It's going to span people from all groups. I'm telling you, it will. I've actually been having a couple of fair conversations on Facebook talking about gun-owning Democrats. Actually, a couple of conversations. Most of the Democrats I know are gun owners. So kind of, at least for me, that whole right-left gun owner anti-gun thing doesn't exist. I don't see it. Most people I know that are Democrats own guns. And very strong Second Amendment supporters. I know not all of them. I'm just saying. Why do you need to have that information? White House refuses to reveal number of breakthrough cases in COVID-infected staff. That's what I was talking about a while ago. No probes for Cuomo and Whitmer. Biden DOJ drops investigations into Michigan, Pennsylvania, and New York nursing home COVID-19 deaths. How do you like those apples? Right? How do you like that? But if you choose, or if you for whatever reason can't get the vaccine, then you're a demon. But we're going to give these people a free pass for what they did. We can continue to act like it's not going on and let them continue to do this stuff to us, I guess. Oh, wow, look at that image. Not related. Texas man arrested and charged in Capitol riot case after Bumble match reported him to the FBI. We can't coddle violent criminals. D.C. police chief shreds media and dysfunctional justice system after upscale district shooting. Reached the limits of voluntary system. New York Mayor de Blasio urges businesses to force vaccines on employees. Telling you. Disgruntled Australians scuffle with police at banned freedom marches as COVID-19 lockdown extended in Sydney. Venezuela accuses U.S. military aircraft of violate... Oh, wow, we switched days. Hang on. Yeah, okay, that was yesterday. Venezuela accuses U.S. military aircraft of violating its airspace from Colombia, warns it might respond forcefully. Hurt dignity. China complains after U.S. broadcast of Olympics leaves Taiwan off Chinese map. And I doubt that was by chance. China blacklists former U.S. Commerce Secretary Ross and other officials in tit-for-tat reply to restrictions over Hong Kong. UK police abandoned investigations into over 1,000 crimes daily in 2020 with 1 in 7 probes dumped within 24 hours, says reports. UK government plans to launch surveillance of Brits' shopping and exercise habits through app and fight against obesity, says the media. So yeah, they are going to start surveilling their citizens for their shopping and exercising habits, and you can better bet their eating habits and all of that. How much more 1984 does it get? Russia sends food and masks to Cuba amid shortages that sparked mass protests. German cops identify over 1,600 suspects in sting-op on online chat groups where child porn and zoophilia materials were distributed. U.S. government fights to keep alleged spy job details secret after she was charged with killing British teenager Harry Dunn and fled the U.K. Algerian athlete who withdrew from Tokyo Olympics to avoid clash with Israeli faces action from judo bosses over discrimination. Like I said, he didn't walk away from that. There's going to be something done. And like I say, at the Olympics, we really need to let everything go at the Olympics, right? Why can't we all just celebrate the best? You know, that's what I see it as, and I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. I don't think there's any problems. I don't have an issue with competition. That's not my issue with sports. My issue with sports is people can't prioritize their life. And there's a lot of people that put sports way ahead of what they ought to be putting. And, I mean, look at it. We can fill stadiums, or at least we did on every weekend. We can fill stadiums with people that want to watch a game. But we can't fill a stadium of people that really, truly want to do something to ensure their children's future. Yeah, I would say priorities are a little messed up. Unacceptable. Fox News blasts NSA after report reveals they unmasked host Tucker Carlson in communications. Barbed welcome as migrant crossing surge Estonia to get Lithuania 100 kilometers of sharp razor wire for border fences. That'll show 'em. Fierce clashes between protesters and police in Paris as tens of thousands rally against COVID certificates and vax mandates in France. As thousands of inmates sent home over pandemic could be told to return to prison, activists urged Biden to keep them home. So yeah, they released a bunch of people because of COVID. They released a bunch of people from prison. And now, you know, of course, that was a lot of privatized prison money that walked out the door. So they're trying to get them back, basically, so they can get back the privatized prison money. Yeah. Nice, huh? I mean, our system's jacked up, folks, from the top to the bottom. It's really jacked up. And it's been really corrupted and manipulated to benefit the few. And the prison system is just another cog in that machine. Bilingual orders and no more gas. Police slapped with new restrictions after George Floyd protest settlement in North Carolina. Gay rights activist Tatchell leads Reclaim Pride March in London to protest 2 corporate pride events. So I guess this guy's protesting the idea of these corporations basically using the whole pride thing and all of that to financially benefit from, monetarily benefit from. And I may not be able to get in line with all his cause or anything like that, but I'm in line with that part of it, without a doubt. I mean, it's sad how corporations are using people, and government and media and all that will use people and to achieve their agenda. And then what's even more sad is how those people are left. I mean, it's a shame. It really, truly is a shame. At least this guy's picking up on it and starting to speak against the corporations. So, again, I can't support what they're doing, but I can support his wanting to call out corporations. That I can absolutely support. Let's see. Freedom Rally. Thousands protest COVID passports in London as anti-vax speaker recalls Nazi doctors who stood trial and hung. And by the way, I'm not saying he can do him. That's just it. He can do him. I'm not going to say it's acceptable. I'm not going to say that the Father approves of it. I'm not going to give in to that bullshit because it's not true. Plain and simple. You don't have to accept my views on it. I don't have to accept your views on it. It's fucking called freedom. Thousands protest COVID passports in London as anti-vax speaker recalls Nazi doctors who stood trial and hung. Filthy, disgusting, and selfish, Australian leaders blast anti-lockdown protesters, unleash strike force to track them down. India in talks with Russia over investments in Russian oil and gas assets, says sources. Draghi like Hitler, protesters slam Italian PM for introducing COVID health pass and calls it discriminatory. Russian fleet and aircraft showcase country's military might with annual Navy parade in St. Petersburg. Oh, I'm to this morning's news. I'm sorry. I've been on it, well, at least since this story. Sorry. I am off my game. I normally keep a much closer eye on that. U.S. shale sees light at the end of the tunnel. Russian warships and nuclear submarines on show in St. Petersburg parade as Putin hails country as world-leading naval power. And I've shared that. I mean, of course, every leader says it's their country's got the top, the best. I just noted it for the... Oh, I don't want to use the word provocation. That's not a provocation. That's just chest puffing. That's what I call it, the chest puffing. But I did notice it. I think the chest puffing means a little bit more now than what it did, say 10 years ago. I sincerely apologize. UK Health Secretary deletes tweet telling Brits not to cower from COVID-19 after sparking uproar. VC firms are pouring billions of dollars into green tech. This is not freedom. Macron denounces irresponsibility and egoism of those who refuse COVID jab. And that, by the way, I called out, I watched Bo of the Fifth Column, and I called him out on his on one of his videos the other day, because that dude, I love the dude like a brother, but I mean I really do like how he gets me to think in different ways about different things. I grow with that. That's a plus. That's a positive, right? I'm not into echo chambers. I want to grow. And but he's like this walking vaccine advertisement, right? And I mean, it's to a disgusting sick. I mean, it's bad. And I called it out, and his claim is that those that are refusing the vaccine are under some type of authoritarian control, I guess, from Trump, right? Because that's the other thing of it. He can't get Trump out of his head. It's absolutely ruining in my opinion, what he does. I mean, Trump is ruining him, but at the same time, I'm not so sure he knows what to talk about without Trump. And I think that might be the problem. I think he don't know how to move on. He don't know where to go from here. And maybe that's the problem. I don't know. But, again, the walking vaccine advertisement, trying to say that that I'm under some authoritarian control as to my decision why not to get it. My decision why not to get it. It makes no sense. To me, that's just, how is that being underneath somebody else's control? By saying, no, I will not allow you to force me to take that. I'm confused. Thoroughly. And I don't understand how a man who I think is a highly intelligent individual can get that so backwards. It's concerning. It's concerning, because he is a very well-thought individual, very intelligent man. But I don't know where the hell he's coming from with this vaccine stuff. I don't know. And again, if that's what your choice is, I support you in it. Okay? And I do. If that's your choice, I support you in it. Right? If you want to go get a breast job, whatever. Right? As long as you're willing and I'm not paying for it, go for it. Why should it matter to me? But when you want to tell me that I have to do it, that's where we got an issue. Let's see. Global central banks to boost share of Chinese yuan by reducing U.S. dollar holdings, says a survey. Russian Su-57 fighter jet freezes mid-flight during incredible makes 2021 air show stunt. Yeah, they're pretty good at being able to pull maneuvers like that. I mean, literally get the aircraft, and this isn't, they've been doing that with their aircraft for quite some time. Getting them up in just a complete dead stall, hanging in the air. It's so awesome. I love flying Russian aircraft in simulators because they fly so incredibly well. They're amazing aircraft. Yes, the U.S. has good aircraft too, but I like agile, and U.S. likes to build rockets more so than agile. And there's a couple of countries that can make it both happen, and Russia's one of them. They can make fast and agile both. So they make incredible planes. It's just a fact. Shanghai evacuates hundreds of thousands, cancels flights, and suspends train services as Typhoon In-fa hits China's coast. UK Labour Party losing 250 members a day since Keir Starmer became leader, says media. That's not a good thing. Pelosi insists January 6th committee about patriotism, not partisanship, as GOP senator says it's a political advantage for Dems. I think it's all a game. I think it's a circus sideshow. Literally. A circus sideshow, being the entire government's a circus, and that's just one of the sideshows. So unfair, so ridiculous, former U.S. President Trump lashes out over transgender athletes and warning over women's rights. IDF soldier, this blows my mind. It just eats me up. IDF soldier sues Ben & Jerry's for pulling his preferred ice cream from occupied Palestinian territory. I've got a real big issue when it comes to forcing private business to do something that they don't want. As far as like forcing them to do business with somebody they don't want to, or do business in a manner they don't want to. You know what I mean, within the fines of morality, but confines, I should say, of morality. But this whole demanding that we have property and business rights stripped away is ludicrous. And that's what they're trying to do. I ain't stupid. They're doing everything they can to get the American people, and in this case, over there, but it's happening here real bad. Them doing everything they can to get you to demand your own rights be stripped away. But we ain't got many left. And what we do have left isn't real strong. 10 killed, 44 injured as bus swerves off highway and crashes in Croatia. Tucker Carlson confronted by critic while with family dubbed worst human being known to mankind. Arizona Republican who voted with Dems on elections bill booed off stage at rally ahead of Trump's speech. Talking about all this division stuff. I watched some video footage over the weekend, and I'm not sure exactly what day the footage was from, but California, maybe it was San Francisco, I'm not 100% on that. There was, I guess, a cancer treatment center, I'm assuming, and I don't know, there was a protest. People, I think, were protesting masks. They were protesting, I think, mandated masks. And I'm not cool with. In front of a cancer clinic, can you please take your bullshit elsewhere? I'm not saying I'm taking a pro-mask, anti-mask stance. That's not my point. Can you take your bullshit elsewhere, please? Because whether you want to realize it or not, there is an issue going on out there. And whether you realize it or not, people with cancer probably don't need to be getting needlessly sick. Just kind of common sense. But nonetheless, that's not what I was going to tell you about. Antifa, or who was labeled Antifa, showed up and started fighting with the anti-mask protesters. And a very good indicator of where this country is headed. And news to share, if you want to check that out. I believe it was his stuff that I was watching. So news to share, and you can watch that as well. A London hit with flash floods as torrential rain turns roads into rivers in UK capital. U.S. vows to continue airstrikes in Afghanistan as general insists Taliban victory is not inevitable. Vaccinated will definitely have more freedom. Berlin mulls restrictions for unvaccinated Germans if COVID-19 cases rise. Let's see. CDC actively considering face cover advisory for vaccinated Americans, according to Fauci. So once again, we're flipping on this. You see what I'm talking about? How are we possibly supposed to trust any information about what's going on? And they continue to keep doing it, flip-flopping and denying and omitting. And like I say, I don't know at this point, even if they did come out and tell us the heartfelt truth, that anybody would listen. And that's on them, not us. They're blaming us. That's on them. And, they don't have to feed in to all of us. Right? It's actually the other way around. They're trying to get you to feed into them. But you don't have to take the bait, Just because it's dangling in front of you doesn't mean you have to take the bait. Syrian air defense units intercept Israeli missiles near Damascus, thwarting third raid in a week, says Russian MOD. And that's it. That is it. Wow. That's the longest news I've done in a long time, I do believe. I don't know the last time that I'd done a couple hours. But, wow. Didn't expect that, but it happened. Tomorrow night, gonna be an important show. It really is. Probably some of the most important stuff I can discuss with you. So, keep that in mind. Anyway, I am going to get out of here. I appreciate you all coming. God willing, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll do it again. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. And shalom.